I know that FDR said that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. But I pretty much lose all my faculties when a Windows Team meeting presenter utters those terrifying words. Okay, now we're going to separate into breakout rooms. Greetings, fellow Earth babies, and welcome to Post-Punk Heartstrings. I am Jimmy James S. Butler, coming to you from my little podcast room that I've created for myself. I'm actually speaking under a box right now that's padded with foam. It's so luxurious, but it's tiny, it's small. Really isn't enough luxury there to enjoy beyond sticking your head into a box and recording your voice on a microphone, and that's what I'm doing. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If I haven't already scared you away with my silly meandering, thank you for staying. Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming back if you've listened to the other episodes already. This episode is a little bit different than the previous episodes. This is a continuation of sorts in Jamie Harmon and I's discussion. I thought it would be a good idea to talk about fears and loves. I think that sharing fears and loves is a very good way to create commonality and to obliterate this feeling that I'm the only one. So sharing fears makes them a little smaller. Sharing loves makes them a little greater. And the transparency that comes with sharing fears and loves brings us together, brings oneness. And so I thought it would be a good idea to do this with my guests. And since Jamie was the first guest I had on this podcast, we did this, and it turned into a bit of a long conversation, which was great. And so I decided just to save it for its own episode, an episode of fears and loves. If you've listened to the past episodes, you know that Steve Hindalong, the lyricist and drummer for the band The Choir, shared a fear and a love of his, and I thought it was really great. And so I'm going to continue this sharing of loves and fears with guests that I have on the podcast, unless the guests are uncomfortable with sharing fears and loves, which I could totally understand, and I'm not going to force anybody. But I am really enthralled with this idea of sharing these semi-private thoughts with each other and breaking down some of the barriers that make us feel so alone. So without any further rambling on my part, let's jump into Jamie and I's conversation.
Tell me, are you often afraid like this? You should never be ashamed of telling me when you're afraid of something. Fear is nothing to be ashamed of. Everybody's afraid of something or other.
These days, I wanna rest my head, but I'm scared of the others. These days, while I lie in bed, I construct a new version, more twists, more news. I can't keep up with you in your new ways. You say I've already heard this.
So let's talk about fears. Were you able to come up with any fears? Originally, I was thinking gripes and gratitudes, or, being thankful. But I went with fears and loves are a little easier to come up. I think fears are difficult. Fears are difficult to share.
Yes, I was just going to say they're
sometimes.
difficult to vocalize. I have a
But-
ton of fears.
They're there, but they're difficult to share.
Yeah.
So did you come up with something?
That's probably the biggest fear right
A
there
few?
is just
Is
being
to share.
sharing, being able to
Yeah.
be vulnerable. Derek and I talk about that a lot, about being vulnerable. It's not easy. And we both come from that fear of being vulnerable from different perspectives. His being vulnerable wasn't allowed in his house because he had a really overbearing father and a not very maternal mother. And so you just took care of yourself. Don't bring up issues, You just basically take care of yourself, raise yourself. And in my house, we were in a bubble that my mom had created and was very important to her because of the mental illness that she grew up with and her mom, and just a horrific upbringing that she had, and was not going to have any of that. And so all my weird little quirks that I had, I mean, I'm sure I'm OCD. I mean, I've struggled with that my entire life, but you don't talk about it. And so my biggest fear always from my earliest memory is saying something that I shouldn't say, which is kind of ironic because I do all the time say things that I shouldn't say, but I do have a fear of it. So it doesn't stop.
Yeah. Have a fear of it, but that it's not strong enough to stop you.
I can't stop it. Yes, a lot of the time. But and sadly that I'm still blocking things up. And so just imagine if that was a way. So yeah, just being labeled as weird or different. And I was always, I mean, I had tons of friends, and everywhere I went, I have a ton of friends, but not very many that know me really in depth, different parts of me, because that's way too vulnerable, you know, to share with some people the way that my mind works. There are very few people that know that, because that would have been in my house, would have been labeled as weird, and we don't do that. So be quiet, don't do that.
Yeah.
And so that was really ingrained in me not to do that. So it was hard for me to really embrace music like this and things like that. I couldn't not do it because it was so strong in me to do that. But I was always cognizant of, if I get really excited about this, somebody's going to be like, well, that's weird. And I'm like, ooh, not the weird word. You know, you're not supposed to be weird. You're not supposed to be weird.
Yeah, not that. Yeah.
So I knew how to fit in. I don't like that, because I think that's kind of hypocritical to do what it takes to fit in. So I've never really been great at it. I've never really found anything that I'm really wonderful at, because I like a lot of different things. And so I dabble a lot.
Yeah.
And I've always had a fear of being pigeonholed, you know, like, you are this. And I'm like, ooh, no, I can't just be one thing, because I'm not good at any one thing. I can do a little bit of everything, nothing really well. I'm like, I just can't.
Yeah. I very much relate to that, what you just said. Very much.
So that's a fear of yours?
Absolutely. I guess it is. Thank you. Because I didn't realize it was. I mean, I've thought about that a lot. Like, that's what you said is very much me. And the thing is, and this is probably true about you too, probably other people would disagree. Yeah. And say, no, you're really good at this, or you're really good at that. But in my head, I'm like, I like doing a lot of different things, and I'm not really good at any one thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So don't make me just do one thing.
Yeah.
But I think other people would disagree.
Yeah, my husband very much disagrees
about me, and probably about you
too.
You know. So, and not to keep mentioning it, but that's part of, you know, that's somewhat related to the INFJ thing too, because we like to do a lot of different things.
And it's hard to settle on one thing. I mean, like,
and focus on one thing. And settle's a better word than focus.
It's hard to settle.
It really is.
I was looking at, I told Derek, I'm going to list my bands, my albums. I'm not a person that likes a lot of just one album, because I like so many different kinds of music that it's all over the place. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to free associate. What are some albums that were important to me? And I came up with Rattle and Hum, U2, Eagles, Hotel California, Yentl. I mean, it's true. It's Yentl. Steve Camp, Doing My Best. I love that album. Metallica's Enter Sandman. Carole King.
Wow.
Carole King.
You went from Steve Camp to Metallica.
I love both of those albums. So
all right, proceed. Proceed.
Carole King's Tapestry. Oh, love that album.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
The Indigo Girls' Rites of Passage. Glenn Hansard is my favorite artist of all time. So I don't have one favorite album.
Wow, I don't know who that is. I'll have to look in.
I'm going to see him on the 12th in Chicago. Wow. My oldest son, I got him and his wife into Glenn Hansard. Have you seen the movie
Glenn
Once?
Hansard. Okay.
Have you heard of that movie Once? He's Irish.
I don't remember.
Okay, he made the movie Once. You'll have to look it up.
Maybe.
It won Best Song.
Maybe
that You're Falling Slowly is the won the best song. And so I like the Once soundtrack, but I just love him. He's Irish. I'm an Anglophile kind of person. I'm obsessed with him. And so this is totally a bunny retro, but I went to see, my favorite actor is Peter Dinklage, and he's a dwarf. And I would,
I know. I don't know him, but I know of him.
I'm
never
kind of
met
in
him.
love with him. And so he just came out with Cyrano, his version of Cyrano. And it's a musical. I did not know this. So I made Derek take me on Friday, and he was kind of excited too. He likes Peter Dinklage too. And I mean, he's not obsessed like I am, but it's okay.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I could be like invisible right now. You don't even care that I'm here. I'm like, shh, Peter's on the screen. I'm like, I'm listening. And so they're singing. And towards the end of the movie, I hear Glenn Hansard's voice. And I'm like, wait, what's happening? Why do I hear Glenn Hansard? And he's in the movie. I literally almost just died. I stopped breathing. Derek was like, breathe. Okay. And he's like, I know that I don't exist for you right now because your two men are right there on the screen. But there was one shot of Glenn Hansard and Peter Dinklage on the screen, and they're singing. And I'm like, I can just die. I could just die. And that's unusual. And I don't know that I would like them as much if everybody now it's pretty much getting that way with Peter Dinklage. Everybody loves Peter Dinklage. And I'm like, oh, I need to move on to somebody else.
Now it's time to.
It was Alan Rickman until he got really popular.
Alan Rickman.
I loved Alan Rickman. And then he got really popular, and I'm like, okay, Peter Dinklage. And now he's really popular. I'm like, dang it, who's on the scene that I can go to?
Who's next?
And Glenn Hansard is getting there, but he's not quite there yet, not as much as most people. So he's still my guy. You would love his music. Very deep, very
for sure.
Dark. A lot of it is dark.
Yeah.
Melancholy, very kind of a melancholy sound. I like folk music a lot. And he is just a guitar, he was a what's it called? Busking? Not bussing. Busking. Yeah, busking.
Oh,
yeah,
busking.
He busked.
I'm like bus boy? No, busking. Yeah, he just put his case out there.
He quit school
played
and started at the age of 14, and that's what he's been doing ever since. And he's made it big, so he's doing well. That's a big fear for me, has always been not fitting in. But then at the same time, strangely enough, equal measures of fear of mine is fitting in. Missing out on the deeper things that you miss out on when you're being shallow. I mean, in school, I was an athlete, and so I did all of that, but I also was copy editor of the newspaper, and I was on the yearbook staff, and I was in AFS, and I was in choir. And I also did, you can do the little popular shallow things, but that wasn't enough for me. And that was important to me so that I wasn't considered weird, but it wasn't important enough to me to not do those other things. I'm like, okay, I can do what I need to do. I like Bon Jovi. I do love Bon Jovi, but I also like Midnight Oil. And that's just going to have to be okay with people. Like, I just can't, I can't give up the Sex Pistols in favor of Journey. I mean, I can like them both, even though my friends are like, I can't even believe you can say Sex Pistols. You're so embarrassed about stuff like that.
Yeah, you can say that.
I'm like the S Pistols. I like them.
S Pistols.
Johnny Rotten. Let's just do that.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, I'll tell you a fear that I wrote down. I have a fear that there will come a time when I'm no longer funny. That people don't think I'm funny anymore.
Okay.
Because that's what everyone always says. Oh, you're so funny. That's what I get the most. But I also have this very, very serious, pensive, intense side. And sometimes I'll intentionally be like, okay, I'm shunning the funny part.
Yeah.
Because I want people to think I'm this intense, see my serious side. But I think the funny part is where my talent really is. That's why
you are good at that. I mean, I'll be honest.
And so I'm afraid there's going to come a time when I'm no longer. Maybe I'm there.
No one told you.
I could be there already. Yeah, nobody told me. They just kind of,
Bless his heart.
they got their laugh tracks going, right? Yeah, but we'll give him a little chuckle. Yeah, he's squarely in the dad joke type camp. But yeah, so that's one of the ones that I put down.
And that's interesting because my first thought when you said that, I was like, I don't think of Sting as funny. And then I'm like, well, wait a minute. Yeah, I do. Like, especially your little quips that you put on Facebook. Those make me crack up every single time. I'm like, oh, yeah, you are. So I think you do it very well. You do both. Because I always think of you as an intense, deep thinker. But then I also, but you're also funny. So
I would take that over funny.
Yeah. 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 I get that.
But I want to be funny too.
Of course.
I don't want to lose that.
Yeah. You want to be everything. That's the thing.
I want to be everything.
Don't
That's the
pigeonhole me. Because the fear is that.
But like I used to write funny blogs and different things more so. And everyone loved that. And I was like, okay, but I don't want to, that's not what I want to focus on.
Funny
anymore.
sells.
And so, yeah, it does though, kind of. So, I've focused on this digging deeper and being very vulnerable, overly vulnerable, having vulnerability hangovers the next day after I've written or posted.
Do you do that? Do you like second
that.
guess? I shouldn't have said that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll publish things and be like, and I've unpublished a few.
Yeah, I saw that. I read that
over the years. Yeah. Which I may publish again, but if the moment hits me right. But yeah, I've had a lot of like going back and reading, which I don't usually do on the stuff I post for that reason. Like I'll go back. Oh my God.
Why did I do that?
Why did I do this? But I try to remember, like, if I show people that, maybe they can relate or be more comfortable doing that, or it'll be something that they can be like, because the worst thing is there's nobody like me. Nobody else has this problem or struggles with this kind of thing. I'm alone.
Yes.
I'm alone. And I don't ever want anybody to feel that way.
Isn't
That's
that
one of my bigger goals?
One of my favorite Simon and Garfunkel songs as a kid was I Am a Rock, I Am an Island. And a rock feels no pain and an island never cries. And I loved that. I always saw that as a positive thing. I'm like, that's right. I'm an island. Here I go again on my own, White Snake. I'm like, that's totally, I really love that. I embrace that. And as I got older, I'm like, oh, those are supposed to be bad things. Oh, interesting. I was like, did not take it that way, because I'm fine being alone. I'm fine being alone. And then when I was alone, not by choice, when John died, and I mean, I wasn't alone because I had Elijah, but that's even lonelier when you're with a kid, Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is kind of horrible. I didn't get to choose this time alone. And that was really hard. And I didn't really realize that I showed that I displayed that. My son recently was talking to Derek and he said, yeah, I'm really glad mom got remarried because I think she was really lonely, but she never wanted to admit that. And I was like, I wasn't lonely. I was never lonely. I'm not a lonely person. I like being alone. And Derek was like, that's not what he was talking about. He wasn't talking about, do you like to be alone? Because you do, but you were lonely. Those are two different things. And I'm like, oh, yeah, it is. True. Yeah, that's true. And so that would be, I guess, that became a fear in my life that I never thought that would be, because I was always fine being by myself. I didn't need anybody else. And needing people is scary. It's scary to need somebody.
Very scary. Yeah. Yeah.
Because that means they can easily hurt you. So
yes, very much so. What else you got? Did you list off everything in one big
all of this
outburst? No, that's okay. I mean, there's no,
No, probably, and it sounds so conceited because again, I don't publish anything. I don't put anything out there because, well, let's just be honest, it's just conceit because I don't want it to not be good enough. And if it's not good enough, if somebody thinks it's not good enough, then I'm just going to be crushed. So I don't put it out there. I don't do anything that I'm not good at. And if I'm not the best at it, I'm fine with that. I like the more middle, I don't want to be the star because that's easy to fall from that. And I don't want to be lousy at it, but as long as I'm in the middle, that's okay. I'm fine with that, but not being like putting something out there and not being relevant. I scoff at people. I'm a horrible person. I scoff at people that put up inane things on Facebook. I'm like, they're like, oh gosh, I had such a great day today. The sun was shining. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, what are you doing? This is inane. It's wasting my time. I don't want to have to read through it. And I'm like, you are so conceited, because I would never put something on there that doesn't have a reason. It has to be relevant. It has to touch somebody or make somebody laugh or be something that,
worthy of someone's time to read.
yes, yeah. And I'm like, well, how conceited is that? I don't know. I struggle with that because
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
if I don't think that it's really worthy, but then I'm making judgment calls on other people, you know. So if I don't put
Yeah,
something on
yeah.
because it's not worthy, then it's like saying, well, what you put on there is not worthy of my time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. When Facebook first kind of blew up and stuff, it was kind of like from that perspective, I was like making fun of it.
yeah.
You know, so I'd post these things, you know, like, you know, I just put my left sock on, you know, and then another post, I just put my right sock on. And it's like, cause people were posting,
like
you know,
every 5
little thing they
seconds. I'm
did.
like, what are you doing?
And I think, yeah, I mean, some of my friends and I have a really good friend, Price. He's not even on right now. I think he has an account, but he's a go on. He's like, I decided I'm not going on Facebook anymore. But he would do the same kind of things. We kind of like tongue in cheek post things, you know, sort of a mockery of like this. Here I am, look at me,
Yes.
you know, type of thing. But like you said, it's then you question yourself. Okay, is it fair for me to judge these other, you know?
And
other
that's
people
the
who
J
are
part of me. And
doing
I very
things?
much have that.
Yeah.
I struggle with that mightily, constantly being judgmental and trying not to be. And what does it mean? And when is it healthy to be? And when is it, I'm like,
Yeah.
I go back and forth.
And anything that resembles fakery, you know, you're gonna be automatically be like,
Yeah.
I don't. It's icky.
It's icky.
I don't like
Get
that.
away. It smells.
Can't touch that. It smells right, exactly.
Oh my.
So I fear that as I get older, I'll become this cranky person that no one likes.
Get off my lawn.
Seriously, that's what I'm crankier than I used to be, just in general, and that bothers me.
Do you have the road rage thing? Is that
Bothers me. I don't.
No?
I really
Good.
don't have the road rage thing at all. No. But I don't know. I feel crankier. Maybe it's just a feeling I have. Maybe I'm not. That's not what I'm giving off to other people. But I'm like, okay, am I gonna? You know, are the aches and pains and, you know, all that stuff going to turn me into one of those, you know, cranky, like, I don't, where's my remote?
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
know. I don't know what.
But it's easy to look at this generation and get frustrated with things and be like, they're pecking idiots, you know?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh my gosh,
It
I'm
is.
old.
Yeah, it's like, wow, I wish I had it this good.
Yeah.
You know, you say all that stuff. There's this many jobs available when I was looking for jobs.
Yeah, I
at this
just
age.
judged at a speech and debate tournament on Saturday, and my husband did speech and debate all the way through high school, and then he did it with Dr. Derryberry at SBU. And
yeah.
and I said, yeah, and the kids they were doing United States extemporaneous, and so I was telling them the topics that the guys had done, and I said, and yeah, I guess they just pulled the thing out of a hat and they had like 30 minutes to look stuff up. And he's like, yeah, look stuff up. We didn't have cell phones. We had to do it
Yeah, how
off
do you
the
look
top
stuff
of our
up?
head.
Yeah, right.
That's extemporaneous.
Yeah.
Looking it up on the phone, that is so unfair. And I'm like, we are so old.
So true.
He posted a thing that said, back in my day, the zombies didn't run. The zombies walked uphill both ways.
That's hilarious. I got one more fear. This one's a little more serious and I struggle with because this has happened. I fear that I will lose inspiration to create and never get it back. Because I've gone through periods where it's like, where did it go? Is it ever going to come back? Because I don't feel inspired to do anything, you know, creative writing, whatever. Is this what the rest of my life's going to be like? I've had times where I've gone through periods where like, it feels like this is going to be the rest of my life. And I'm not going to ever feel any inspiration to do these things anymore, you know, or I'm not going to hear music and be inspired. And that's a pretty scary place to be.
It is. And
you know,
not for everybody, obviously for you. I mean,
yeah, some people, sometimes I'm like, I wish I was one of those people that didn't care. There's people that don't care. They are perfectly content to experience creativity and the inspiration of other people and just be observers.
Yeah.
And sometimes I guess I can do that. I can enjoy that, but I want to make a mark too. Mm-hmm. And so that scares me because you have to have inspiration to push you towards doing something you feel is of value. Like if you don't have inspiration as an INFJ person, you're not going to want to follow through with anything or do anything.
Yeah. I'm like, oh.
silenced you.
No, it's been.
All right, my work is done.
I'm depressed.
Yeah,
That was not funny at all.
I didn't get to my loves yet. So.
Skip to those quick.
Yeah, I'm done with the fears. Did you have any other fears?
When I was a very creative, when I was writing in college, and probably this still is, well, it is still true. I'm a teacher. And so one of my prevailing fears is leading somebody astray in some way. And with I was in a poetry group at SBU with one of our professors, with Dr. Paget. And I loved him. I remember. Such a great, he was my advisor. Great. And we drank tea and we wrote poetry and we shared our poetry. It was so much fun. My friend Heather Clark and I were in it. Mike was in it. Just Ginger Worthington was in it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I love her. And we would write poems and then share our poems. And sometimes what they were writing, I'm like, you guys can't publish that. And we had a big discussion about it because I was like, we had to be responsible with what we put out there, in the world. What if somebody takes that the wrong way? And Dr. Paget said, well, here's the thing about art and creativity. You have to allow people to interpret. And I'm like, that terrifies me because what if I'm wrong? I mean, I grew up worrying that we were wrong about God, about, what if we're wrong? What if we're on the wrong side? What if we end up being the end of a time we did it wrong? And, I'm always worried about if I put something out there that's irresponsible, that leads somebody down the wrong path or whatever. Especially with my music choices. What if they're like, oh, you listen to Meatloaf? Is that, I had several purges throughout college where I got rid of all my music.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, because I felt guilty.
I had some
lot of guilt. Yeah. I have a lot of guilt. And so that's an underlying fear through everything, that I might be doing it wrong, And so, so that kind of thwarts a lot of creativity, things that I would like to write or like to publish, but I'm like,
kind of holds you back sometimes. Yeah. Well, I would encourage you to keep struggling against that.
Do it anyway.
Just don't come to me when it backfires.
You said.
You said to do it anyway. Look what happened.
Hey there, I just wanted to take an opportunity to once again thank those of you who have been listening all along and welcome those of you who maybe have wandered into this podcast. I always knew that if I built it, they wouldn't necessarily come, but maybe a few would wander in by accident. So if you're wandering in by accident or on purpose, I welcome you. Thank you so much for being here, for listening this far into the episode. And thank you very much to those who have been listening all along. This is episode number 4, and there are many more to come. I guarantee it. You have that guarantee from Jimmy James S. Butler. It means a lot. And now I'm going to slide you back into Jamie and I's conversation where we are done with fears and we talk about loves. Enjoy.
And now we return you to this shambles of a podcast.
Don't come round too regular here, and I don't wanna fear no more.
So loves. We're on to loves.
This is easy.
Sound the trumpets. Sound the Peter Dinklage trumpets.
Number 1.
So go ahead. You can start off.
Music. I mean, that's easy. I mean, just every kind of music. I can't, and I share this with my students all the time because as we do different things, we talk about music in different countries. And I'm like, you literally cannot come up with a genre of music that I don't love at least one song or one artist of that genre. And students are always trying to trip me up, and they're like,
they're
like, well, what about this? Or what about this? And they're like, you like punk? You like rap?
What about Screamo?
There's at least one song or one person from every genre that I'm like, I really like that. I really like that a lot. So I love music. And fortunately, my husband does too. And our kids have grown up with, they can sing something from anything. And it's great. Like if we put he always has playlists of everything. And if he puts it on shuffle, I mean, we'll have Gregorian chants that go into George Strait, that go into, and his is, I mean, even though he has an amazing amount of music and genres, I even have more because he doesn't do rap or metal. And I like rap and metal. So, I mean, some of it, not all of it, but so, I mean, our kids are very well-rounded musically as far as that goes. So music is a number one.
Nice.
You?
Yeah, that's a good one. This one's pretty specific. I love hearing the laughter of my children when they get together. Like when they're talking to each other and they're joking, laughing, teasing each other. And I just love it. I love hearing it. It makes me feel really good just to hear that.
Yeah, we did a family vacation a couple years ago. We just went to Branson, got a B&B, an Airbnb, and rented it out. And kids stayed up late. And I mean, we have 3 adult kids. I have a son-in-law and a daughter-in-law and 3 grandkids. And so it was a busy time, but they stayed up late playing games and they were really loud. And we had the grandkids asleep in our room. And I said to my husband, "Do you want me to go out there and tell them to quiet down?" And he's like, no, I love listening to that. You know, that makes me feel like a successful parent, that our kids can get together and enjoy each other's company. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that.
What else you got?
Again, something that I tell my students all the time, I use the word love too much. We overuse the word love. I said, I'm the chief offender in that. I mean, if you talk about a movie, I'm like, oh, I love that. Oh, I love that part. Oh, I love this. I love everything, you know? And you would think that I just am like this happy, bubbly person that loves everything. And I'm not, but there's just so much. I mean, well, right now, this time I really love being a grandma, and I didn't really grasp how much I would enjoy that.
Yeah.
And because we're a blended family, I only gave birth to one child, you know, and so my genes are in one kid who's not doing great right now. And so, you know, that's hard. But and when we got married, my daughter was 14 and she had just lost her mother. And Derek and I got married 6 months after Lisa died. And she was a very angry 14-year-old girl who despised me and left the house at 17, you know, 3 years in the house. And it was hell. It was awful. And she left the house and came back pregnant at 18 and got married and then had her first child. And she had me in the birthing room when she had Bryson. And I didn't expect that at all because she did not like me. But when she came back, she was very apologetic and said, you know, you are my mom. And so I got to be in there and watch him get born. And I'm like, oh, now I understand, you know, everybody that had grandchildren were like, it's a whole nother level. And I'm like, yeah, it's okay. And these aren't even my grandkids technically, you know, and it's not like that at all. These are my grandkids. I mean, my oldest grandson, Wyatt's not even Brittany's. I mean, absolutely no connection he's my son-in-law's from a previous relationship. And just that I mean, they're my grandkids. It doesn't matter that we don't share genes or anything, you know, I mean, they're just, and Bryson in particular, because I was there at his birth and he comes and sits on my lap and calls me Grams. And I'm like, anything for him, you know, awesome. An extreme amount of love.
Yeah, I'm not quite there yet. As far as I know, nobody's pregnant. Nobody's pregnant, as far as I know.
Keep it that way, ladies.
It probably won't be long. Who knows? They're all single. How old is
Jacob? So. He's your youngest, right?
Jacob is 19.
Oh, wow. I thought he was still in high school. My goodness.
Yep, he just graduated. Yeah.
Wow.
So, 19, and they're pretty much every 2 years.
Okay.
So, roughly. But yeah, nobody's settled down yet. We'll see. Okay, well, this one's kind of silly, but I love dog size. Like when dogs sigh.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant SIZE, and I'm like, what?
Not the size of dogs. I love everything dog sized. It has to be dog sized.
That could be.
What kind of dog, you ask?
Great Dane.
Teacup Chihuahua size.
Okay, so tiny.
Unless,
okay.
You know.
Oh, when it does.
If you're talking about suitcases, I want one that's Great Dane size. If you're talking. No, dogs when they sigh. You know.
Oh, that's cute.
When they do their thing, you know. because they're just so exasperated
Yes.
with you. Like it's like,
They have such a rough life and they can't believe.
and I'm like, I'm so sorry that I woke you up after you were sleeping all day, and you're gonna go to sleep
Could
again
you
in a
move
few
to
minutes.
sleep there? Oh,
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And the lips, you know.
Do you have a dog
So,
again? You have a dog right now?
I do. I have one of my daughter's dogs.
Oh,
You know, our Basset Hound. He was
it was a
16,
long time.
and yeah, and he was very, very, very senile at the end, and very. He'd pace around and scratch at doors, and he just got to the point where the rest of his body also was deteriorating, but he was still active. Like, but yeah, so we put him down a couple years ago, and then the dog I have now is a coonhound,
Oh,
and it was one of my daughter's dogs that is mine now, and she has another new dog now. Well, not new; she's had her for about 2 or 3 years, but he is now, after the other dog got put down, this other Brick is his name. He started showing signs of dementia and stuff like that. So senility, and so he's not nearly as bad as the Basset Hound. He doesn't like to be alone. He'll follow you around. He'll whine. I give him medicine every night. But he's very healthy.
good.
I guess that's good. I guess it is. It's rough. It's like having a senile person. Like you have to.
Yeah.
Not as bad, but he's very much like clingy and can't sit still. And I'll walk out in the morning a lot of times, and he'll be standing with his head inside this, like it's like an end table that's hollow. He'll just be standing with his head inside of it, just standing there. I'll see his back, and it's facing the wall, like or he'll just stand there looking at the wall.
Oh,
And yeah, but then he has good days too. So, but yeah, so
oh my goodness.
yeah, it's kind of bittersweet.
Yeah.
He is what he is. I don't know after he's gone. I don't know how long it'll be before I go down that road again.
Yeah.
So,
We've been without a pet since we moved back to Missouri. So going on 4 years now. It's our 4th year. Not
yeah.
because we've been renting. So we just
Yeah,
bought a house and we're moving. We're closing on next Monday.
Oh, wow.
So we'll be
Yeah.
moving to Kansas. I'm like, why not? Let's just pick another state because Jamie can't sit still, apparently, which is so weird. I
Yeah.
lived in the same house, went to the same school, grew up in the same church my entire life, as all 3 of my sisters did. And I have done nothing but move in my adult life. I'm like, this is driving me up a wall.
Yeah.
I hate moving, but I really want a dog. But we're kind of fighting about what kind. I want an Irish wolfhound. I want a
Yeah.
huge dog. And Derek's like, how about
Yeah,
some
pretty
small dogs? And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It makes me nervous.
Yeah.
It makes me nervous. But I love dogs. They are just, I don't know. They're just the perfect animal. I love them. So
Yeah, I love them. I'm not sure, like puppies and stuff. I remember how that was.
no, I can't do a puppy.
And that could be rough.
Can't do a puppy. I
Yeah.
can't do that training
But-
again. So
Yeah, the training's
Yeah.
rough. Yeah. So you're moving to somewhere in Kansas.
Baxter
Wow.
Springs. Yeah, it's
Oh wow, I don't know where that's at.
it's just over the border and out of Missouri into Kansas. I mean, like it's like
Which where at?
do you know where Joplin, Missouri is?
North? Yeah.
That's where
Oh,
my
yeah.
daughter lives, and that's
Yeah.
where our grandkids are, and so it's about 20 minutes from
Oh,
Joplin.
nice.
So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, my girlfriend, her name's Christina.
I know.
We went to Joplin just to we try to go on we like adventure, just going to different places and so we thought, oh, we should go to Joplin. So we went down there and we went to there's a place you can get in the water. I forgot what it's called. But it's a place that's known around where you can the water's like rushing, there's a waterfall.
Oh,
And you can get into the water.
Cool.
I forget where it's at exactly, but yeah, it's in Joplin. And then we went down to downtown, and we like art.
yes,
So,
yes, me too.
we went and bought a piece of art from one of the people.
Oh,
down
that's
there.
great.
There was a lady down there that does paintings, and she likes moons. So she does all these paintings with clouds and the moon.
Oh, wow.
All different colors of moons.
Oh,
They're really
I
neat.
would like that.
Yeah, so she bought one, I bought one, but yeah, so yeah, I like it a lot. And then I always look for breweries. I like to go to breweries and because I like the microbrews.
Yeah.
So there was one down there. I can't remember the name of it now, but I always gear where I'm going. I look for breweries. Okay, what breweries are nearby?
Yeah.
What can we do? Because it's kind of like an adventure too,
Yeah.
because they're usually have neat decor and
Yes,
stuff like
yeah.
that.
That's
Something
Derek's big
something to
excitement
try.
about our new house is that he's going to be able to have his own bar. And so he has a room. There's an extra room that he's turning into a bar. So he's been buying, and we like antiquing, thrift store. That's what our kind of thing is. That's
Yeah.
I don't like shopping,
Yeah.
but I love thrift stores and flea markets. And most of our furniture and stuff is from, it's antique stuff or really cool stuff that's from there. So he's been buying stuff for the new house for the bar that he's going to have. And it's so funny because I'm
nice.
like, I don't talk to my mom about it too much because she'd be like,
Yeah,
I
well,
just
yeah.
don't like alcohol. And so we don't talk
Yeah,
about that.
yeah. Same
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
Yeah, my kids,
Yeah.
my kids thought it was really funny because we were out for my daughter's for celebrating her birthday. She just got graduated from the Army National Guard, so she's been gone for 6 months, and she just got back, and her birthday was while she was gone. We met at Branson Landing at Landshark, and so my husband's like, I'll buy the drinks for everybody. So it was just 4 of us that were adults, and then my 13-year-old, so he didn't get a drink. But so he ordered drinks and he said, "Hun, what do you want?" And Brittany's like, "Wait a minute. Okay. Are you asking mom what drink she wants?" She's like, "Mom does not drink." And he's like, "Well, she drinks a little bit."
Yeah.
And she was like, "What has happened while I've been gone?"
What?
She's like, "You do what?" And I'm like, just like the fruity peach things. I like peach
Yeah.
and mango. And so it's kind of dangerous because I really like those drinks. So,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
she's like, "Okay, mom has 2 tattoos and she got 2 tattoos while I was gone and is drinking." My life is just
What?
like just small
What's happening?
tattoos. They're little on my wrist.
Yeah.
It's not like a big deal, but anyway, so she was kind of freaked out because she has like 4 tattoos. So I'm like, "Okay, Brittany." So
Yeah. Yeah. Hey. So she was gone for 6 months. Is that what you said?
yeah, she was away
Whatever.
at training
Yeah.
for 6 months
Yeah.
and just graduated. So that's pretty cool. But
Good for
yeah,
her. That's
yeah,
awesome.
she's a dragon soldier. I'm like, okay.
Ooh.
So she did chemical or something. I don't know. I despise science. So that's I'm like, that's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
a love. It's a hate.
That's you're not listing that off. as a
No,
love.
definitely not. No, the opposite, actually. Yeah, I love art. Like you said, I was an art major when I first came to SBU. When I met you, I was an art major. I quickly changed that because again, I wasn't great at it. And so I was like, "Oh, why am I doing this?" All these people that are really awesome at this. And I'm like,
Well, that's what Glenn did. So Glenn was that.
Yes.
He was a
yes,
art major.
yeah, we I think we
So I don't
had
know if you had
one
any
class
classes
together.
or cross paths.
But he
Yeah.
was like way advanced. I not so much. I like to draw.
He was very meticulous about art. He was.
Yeah,
very
he wouldn't have
meticulous.
enjoyed mine. Like I said, I was like, this is not for me. This is not for me. The one thing that I am really good at is reading. So let's just do English. And that's what I did for a long
Yeah.
time. And everybody's like, "What are you going to do with it?" I'm like, I'm going to read and I'm going to read a lot.
I'm gonna read, and then I'll probably read some more, and
I might pick up a
might
couple
read.
more books.
I might read after that. I might-
Can't you make a job
yeah.
out of
Did you
that?
grow up? Did you grow up reading a lot?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so did I. I read a lot. When I was as young as I can remember.
Yeah, me too. I don't remember not reading.
Reading.
So I remember starting school,
Yeah.
but I was already reading. So I was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember being like, the teacher was like, "Well, let's give you this book." And I was like, "Brr, brr, 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 brr." And she's like, "Okay, we'll go up another level." And she's like, "Okay, yeah, there's nothing in the kindergarten classroom for you." So
So did either one of your parents read to you?
my mom.
Okay. My mom read to me.
Oh, okay.
She would read chapter books a chapter every night of a
Ah.
book. Narnia,
Yes.
things like that.
Yeah.
When I was really little.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's has anything to do with.
They say
you know,
it does, which makes me feel really horrible because
don't know.
I was not the greatest at reading to my kids. I love reading so much, but I hate reading out loud, like passionately despise
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
being a teacher, I talk all day and that exhausts me.
Yeah, you had to talk a lot.
So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I really need
Yeah.
that downtime to just be quiet. So I did make some effort, especially when Derek and I first got married. The boys were 11 and 12. I mean, our boys are the same age technically.
Mhm.
And so I did read Where the Red Fern Grows to them. I read that because that was important to me. My aunt read it to us when we were kids.
Yeah.
So I read that to them. I read aloud a couple of different books to them, but I was like, okay, now you read, and I didn't get a reader
Yeah.
until my last one. My 13-year-old loves to read.
I-
And I'm like, thank you.
that's awesome.
I'm like,
I got 0
really?
out of 4.
Isn't
And I
that
read.
weird?
Like I read to at least the oldest 2. I read pretty consistently too, but yeah.
Yeah.
Now they would say, "Oh, we read," but yeah, come on, you don't
No,
read.
not like breathing. I mean, for me, it's like
You don't
breathing.
read.
I have to have
Yeah,
several books. I had to have a book in every room, in every space. I mean, what if there's downtime and I don't have a book? I mean, that would be like, what do you do? So
I think readers are maybe this is true, but it seems like they're more rare than they used to be.
I think so,
in young
very much
people.
so. A lot of people, a lot of women, especially now, they're like, oh, I'm just an avid reader, but they're reading like beach books or whatever. And again, here
Yeah.
comes my
Yeah.
judgmental, my criticism.
Yeah,
I mean, I've read everything by Danielle Steele, and I'm like, that's great. And
that's pretty
Yeah.
high reading right there.
and I read juvenile fiction. But I like dystopian.
I'm sure they throw in a Dostoevsky every once in a while too.
What did Theodore say to you today?
Which the first I love Dostoevsky, and
Of course you do. He's
but
depressive.
I'm not going to say I've read everything, and it's and I'll be the first to tell you it is tough reading.
No.
A lot of it
Yeah.
is, but I think it's ironic. I always think it's ironic because I first read Crime and Punishment, and it was in the library at the Christian school I went to, and I was like, I'm surprised they would approve of this.
Yeah.
But they were weird like that.
It's a classic.
If it was they had Poe, but it's like you.
Do you know his background?
He was like a drug. He was like a drug.
Has that whole
what a
cousin
morphine
thing
user
going
or whatever.
on?
But it was weird because they if it was a classic author, that it was okay to have there, and I was like, this is so weird. You guys are, and of course I questioned. I'm like, it's just weird. But I didn't question too much on those because I was like, then you
Yeah,
lose
exactly.
them. Then
Yeah.
they take them out.
I'm just
so
gonna
I don't want to lose
keep
them.
quiet and keep checking them out. Yeah.
But I read Stephen King.
too.
I read all sorts of stuff like
Yeah.
that, and I would take it to school, and it would get taken. They'd throw it away or whatever. My Stephen King book.
I got in trouble
But,
in 4th grade because we had silent reading time. And so I whipped out my book. In 4th grade, our teacher had a challenge for us. She had a kiln. And for every 10 books you read, you could make a small ceramic animal, and you could paint it, and she would glaze it in her kiln and give it to you. And if you read 50 books, you got to do a big animal. I was the only one that read 50 books. And I was like done by October. I'm like, what now? What, another 50 books? I'm like, let's go.
Yeah.
But I just loved to read. And during silent reading time, I whipped out a book that I'd grabbed from my mom. My mom had a cabinet, this huge cabinet by our downstairs bathroom that had these big doors that opened, and it was full of her books. And there was a bunch of Harlequins in there, which I was like, didn't read those. I mean, I might have tried 1 or 2, and I'm like, yeah, these are stupid. And so I never read those, but I grabbed a book off of her shelf because I'd read all of mine. And I reread books, but I didn't really feel like rereading something. I wanted something new. So I'm reading this book, and my teacher comes by, and she's looking at all of our books, and she's like frowning and looking at me. And she said, open that to the cover. And so I opened it, and she said, I am taking that and calling your mother. I lived in a small town, 500 people. So our town library was the center of the school. And so the librarian knew what I read if I checked it out. So I thought, I'll sneak something from mom's. Then the librarian won't give me the big hairy eyeball like she does every day. And so my mom got called. I got in so much trouble when I got home, major spanking, because it was Valley of the Dolls. And here's the thing. My mom was like, you are not allowed to take books out of my cabinet without my permission. I have to see what book you take out of the cabinet. I was like, okay. And she's like, you have no idea what this book is about. It is. And I said, I know what it's about. And she's like, no, you don't. You have no idea. And I said, it was my second time reading it. I've already read it. And she was like, you're in 4th grade, Jamie. This is inappropriate. And it was. I'm like, I shouldn't have read that. But I also read Peyton Place. I read Peyton Place as a 4th grader.
Yeah.
And again, I didn't need to read those books, but I got bored with what I had to read. And our town librarian was like Hitler about what you were You were in the elementary section. And I'm like, I've read all of those books.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. And she was like,
yeah.
well, that you are elementary. You have to read from the elementary section. And I was like, I've read all of them and I've reread most of them. I need something else. And so my mom called her and had to go down and sign a paper saying that Jamie can check out junior high books. Just ridiculous. So I read through all the junior high books by the end of 5th grade. And so I'm in junior high now. And I'm like, can I check out adult books? And she's like, absolutely not. So my mom had to come down again and sign a paper saying Jamie is approved to pick out the high school books. So my very first book that I checked out from the adult books was Mein Kampf. And I thought she was going to blow a gasket. She was like, what is wrong with you? The librarian just hated me. I mean, and everybody knew us. So it's like a small town, she was like, so she calls my mom again, and we own the little store in town. So she calls my mom at the store, and my mom was like, she's like, she wants to talk to you. And I get on the phone. My mom's like, Jamie, why do you have to do these things? And I'm like, it's an important book to read. And she's like, you're in 6th grade. What could you possibly understand about Mein Kampf? And I'm like, it's important to understand what Hitler was thinking. He was crazy. I want to know why people say he was crazy. And she's like, all right, it's fine, Mrs. Larson, let her read it. She probably won't get through it. And I did. I mean, I read that. I read Siddhartha in 5th grade. Didn't really grasp the whole thing, but read Ivanhoe for my 5th grade assignment in my book report over Christmas. Oh, I was like, why did I do this to myself? This is a hard book. But I was going to persevere, dang it. So yeah, reading, I mean, that would be my number one love, of course, books. I just can't get enough of them.
Yeah, I can relate.
Probably read too much junk. I need to be better about that. I don't know.
I don't know. Probably not.
Probably not.
Well, that wraps it up for this episode, fellow Earth babies. Thank you so much for joining me. The next episode is currently in the works, and I'm hoping to start churning these babies out a little quicker for you. But no promises, because guess what? I'm a one-man show. I don't want any money. I don't want any sponsorship. All I want to do is keep creating podcasts that I would want to listen to, and hopefully there'll be some other people like me who will want to listen as well. I'm trying to put out podcasts that are enjoyable to listen to and have an element of creativity that hopefully will strike a chord with those who listen the way it strikes a chord with me. So yeah, I'm not asking for sponsorship. I'm not asking for contribution. All I'm asking for is a little bit of patience and for you to keep showing up, checking back. And my promise is that I will try to put these podcasts out a little more often. I'm new to this. I started from scratch. I didn't know how to edit. I didn't know how to find content. Copyright-free music is a big thing. And so this is a process for me. And I appreciate so much those of you who have tuned in and have kept tuning in and who have wandered in. Just a quick note to let you know that our beloved Brick, the coonhound that I was speaking of earlier in the podcast when we were talking about loves, he passed away on April 1st. This episode was recorded back in March, and he passed away a couple of weeks later. He was a wonderful dog, sweetest dog in the world. Everyone who ever met him would say the same. Cheers to you, Brick, wherever you are. We love and miss you. You can find links in the show notes to the music that was used in the podcast and the sound effects. Earlier in the podcast, we heard from Fears IRL, a.k.a. Constance Keene, with a little tune called Days. And then we heard from Glass Candy, Love, 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 a little bit later in the podcast. Links to their work are in the show notes, and I urge you to check out both bands. There's really some amazing music on their releases. And I think we'll have a little bit of Glass Candy, Love, 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 taking us out today. Take care of yourselves. Bye.
This is like, hell to the right.